what I call it, advice from somebody else. And you see something's a vice, and then you add vice to it, you're just tightening it. Okay, you know what a vice is, right? I'm trying to, help you acknowledge. But what happened, he put the statement of birth in on the last time he showed up, and then what happens, they didn't hear him at all. They said, we've had enough of this. We don't even know what this guy's doing. He's trying to put something in that we're not comprehending. We don't know what's coming out of his Babylon. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ex parte. Now, how many people have heard about the ex parte? Come on, that happens quite a bit. So people have been around the block, have heard about ex parte.
What is that?
It's when it's for one party only. It will go to their advantage because something is not being dealt with. So it's almost like ignoring that the party that should have been there is not there, and therefore they're just going to go and handle it themselves on another date, based on the fact the other party failed to show up or show them up. And they will try all. So he missed the court date. I said, well, that's really bad. You went through all this and you missed the court date. But it was an error. And he thought it was on another day, so he missed it. So he ends up, in order to appeal it, I said, well, the only way you're going to be able to, it's just my stand out and look from the outside. If you want to go step into this crazy game, you're going to have to actually appeal it. And to appeal it, you have to have the information that happened when you weren't there. Because you couldn't defend the case otherwise. So you had to pay for the transcripts. So he went and ordered the transcripts. And then he gave me the transcripts, and he really didn't understand what was in the transcripts, so he said, you figure it out. So I was just looking at it, and I said, okay, no problem. So we looked in on it, and they made the judge who had dealt with the case made some very interesting. Okay, so all you guys, we're going to do a little bit of a mind bend on you for a moment. This is coming out of the judge dealing with the case. Because he had a dog that you're not supposed to have in Toronto. He had a pit bull. But he had one that was grandfathered before the clause happened, and then he had one that wasn't in. So in the case, they weren't concerned about the pit bull anymore. They were concerned about his identification, who he was. It said, now this matter came before the court on numerous occasions before, and I am just going to outline some aspects of what occurred and what the law is in relation to what happened with respect to the identification. Not of the pit bull, but of the defendant. There is no provision in the Canadian legal system which allows an individual to transfer his given names to anyone, whether to a person, a corporation, or a trust. So how could you ever state your name in full for the record? You tell me there isn't a corporation, a person, or a trust going on in anything that's going on in there? That would eliminate the whole legal system. No, that's a given. Because that's inalienable. You can't lien something that's a gift. When your parents gave you a name, that's a God-given right to give someone a name based on custom, common law, tradition. And because when the AD calendar came in from the BC calendar, under Roman civil law, common law, equity, you name it, that's a Christian name. I know it's hard for people to understand that, but I'm telling you, lawyers just won't tell you because they don't want to talk about it. Every time you talk about Christ, they go, oh, Christ. Because he's the only one on the record that they killed who was not guilty. He wasn't guilty, he was innocent. They had no jurisdiction, and then they asked the mob to kill him. You have to follow what it is, and they stuck a name over his head, which made him part of their jurisdiction because the Romans had to have title in order to kill someone. So they put a title over his head. It was false, but they said it was true. That's a legal fiction. Now do you understand legal fiction? X is Y, but cannot be disproved. So that means John is Smith and cannot be disproved. That's surnaming and changing the name of something that was and alternating it. But they sign off on it. You understand? They're the signing authority for that judgment, not you. We were reading some historical records on Paul, and I'm trying to give you the long and the short of it. I can find it. I'm not messing around with you, but you know the long and the short of it. You have the long form and the short form, right? Wouldn't that be the long and the short of it? So yes, maybe I would be a really nice guy walking into the court, but I don't want to say the wrong things because I may owe in sound. I'm trying to mess around with people from Owen Sound, but there's a lot of trouble hopping up in Owen Sound. Okay, so I'm being gentle. I was going to give a parable, but I didn't do it today.
Chicken.
On that whole story. So here's the long of it, right? It's very small. I shrunk it down. I'm trying to be humble. I don't want to make it too big, right? And then there's the short of it, because that's the award that came out of this judgment. And they set aside and said, this is what we believe comes from whatever happened here. I had nothing to do with it. Don't mess around with something that's happening. They're signing for it. Remember who I told you is running the public? It's a stratocracy. They're in charge, guys. When you try to take charge of them, now you're an enemy. You're an enemy of the state. And when you take charge of this and go and move it up the ladder, whether to get a driver's license or to go to move it up the ladder to get a social insurance registration, you're now registering for sin. And this one's impersonating, so they go, okay, you want to behead? No problem. Take us over? No problem, we'll behead you. So they take a picture of your head. That's treason. And they say, now you sign your own death warrant. And then they just do sport fishing, catch and release. They catch you, and sometimes they release you. No more deer in the headlights, guys. The knowledge is the gold, not the gold. You can't eat the gold. If you have knowledge, you'll eat. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly it's probably better to have gold than other things that are out there right now if I was doing currency. Okay, so this is the long and the short of it. So if I was in there, I can't vouch for myself. Can you vouch for yourself? Come on, let's be real. That court will not accept only your given name. You know that. You walked in court and said, my given, and I'm not trying to offend anybody, my given Christian name is this, right? I say I'm John, or I say I'm Daniel, or I say I'm Jim. Are they going to take your word for it? What would you have to prove that? If I'm down the road, what would I prove? It's all proof. They said in Vital Statistics 46.1, 46 chromosomes, of course, only by chance, that these records, purporting to be what they are, can be entered into any court of law in absence of evidence to the contrary. Well, most of the things that are going on in our lives are because we did something contrary to this. We did a derivative. You know what happened in the derivative market? That's hypothecation, changing something. There was no face value on this. Why would I give it face value? I had nothing to do with this. You can't harm a child. This is just what it is. I'm there to honor them. I'm being very subject to them, right? The Roman authorities in Romans 13, reverse osmosis man. Isn't that our old man?
Mm-hmm.
Reverse the baptism. Watermark on this. Created this. Flip on the other side. There's a... Can't you see the horse? You look at these closely. You ever flipped over these? You ever seen these ones? It's a seahorse, right? You can see it. It's in the womb. Pierced Jesus' side out came water and blood. So there's water surrounding Ontario, and then red number, especially with A, absolution, top end rating, seed of Abraham possibly. Can't run a good corporation without seed capital and overhead. If they put the overhead over you, if you want to take the overhead, sign for it, go ahead. As I always say, don't let me stand in the way of your success. If you want to sin and sign, you don't pronounce G and sign, right? Wouldn't that be a sin? Isn't that you directing the movie? You can't be the father and be the son. You want to be the prodigal, that means to drive, so you go out and get a driver's license. The things I'm saying are correct. They are true. There's no concern here. But there is a lot of manure out there right now. And it will get you in trouble because they are going to clamp down on this free man movement. Because it's not even accurate in the law what those guys are doing, and it's not accurate according to the Bible. And you got to go to your Bible if you want to research where free man showed up, and you got to go in and see what they're talking about in law on a free man. Now, if I've already got this certifies and vouches for who I am, right? It's a voucher, right? Someone vouched. I didn't say I was this. Did you say you were this? The only time you made your own illusion is when you walked into a legal fiction and you took two things that don't belong and you legalized it, and you wouldn't have needed insurance if it was assured. Now this one's assured, that one's not. The social insurance guy, you need to insure it and you need to take a picture wherever you do. Are you kind of getting the picture to this motion picture? Don't get emotional. You got deceived, you were beguiled. You took a false offer. Thank goodness you were of the seed of the woman because she was beguiled. And forgiven, so it's a given that your forgiven name means you're forgiven. But there is a separation of church and state. Only they can state the name for the record because they certify it and they vouch for it. This is a voucher. And because this was prescribed, a prescription, wouldn't I have to give you a drug? A remedy? Don't give me that deer in the headlights look again. Prescription drug? The extract? Come on now. Gary knows what extracts. Of course, wouldn't the promise be in the land for the humble? The ones that aren't going to go and cause the problem, so they get the extract. Extraction was birth. There was one of the bond and one of the free in Scripture. One was freeborn, one was not born of someone in slavery. Abraham had two wives. One was the bond and one was the free. It's a lot of reading, guys. I'm trying to give you a summary 101 on kind of the book, but they gave you all the tools. Wouldn't it make sense, or wouldn't that be fraud? Prescription, drug. Prescription, drug. Prescription, remedy. So wouldn't it be better to go in there and say, in all due respect, Your Honor, I can't vouch for myself. It appears I'm certifiable and institutionalized. I've given this to the prosecutor. I've given this to the clerk. I'm just going to sit down. I'll sit down on the right-hand side. But if you try to defend something, do you know that the word defend means to deny? So you're denying this by going up there and speaking. Because you went up to another level, another entity that does not exist. Be still and know that I am Lord. Well, it's kind of like a stillborn. Doesn't move. Static. Stillborn, right? Be still and know that I am God. Well, if He ordained the higher powers, then they're in charge, so let them be in charge. But if you try to take charge, they'll charge you. End of story. It's just walking into a trap. No pictures waiting outside the courtroom. This is the guy on the docket every time. But then you go and say a reverse to the name, so you reverse the spell, and now you get the spell. I'll leave the spell in reversion. Maybe they're holding your state in reversion. You don't have to look up some of these words. You'll slow it down and you'll get this. See, if you do what's right, you'll get what's left. That's the remainder, and that's the rest. Want me to say that slow again? If you do what's right, you will get what's left. And that's the remainder, and that's the rest. Because you're supposed to be in the rest. Rest in peace. This is a peace bond. To be at peace. Don't be at occupation. Then it says you're bearing arms. They're bearing the arms. You want them to bear the arms? You want to bear the arms. This is reverse to everything you've ever done in your life, and it will not make sense. It's completely opposite, I know. It's like me telling you you swam downstream, and I'm telling you go upstream, and you're going, oh my goodness. I was having a problem swimming downstream. Now he wants me to work up against the current. This guy's insane. Yes. And you can't prosecute an insane man. Because I found out I'm already institutionalized. I'm certifiable. They did it. They said, look, I'm certifiable. But when you do something else right, you're saying, no, I'm not certifiable. I dispute it. So I'm going to re-venue the case. And now you wonder why they have re-venue Canada. I hope this is working, guys. This is a great video. It's a lot of stuff on it. There'll be lots more. Hopefully most will be 15-minute little meals, not 2 hours or whatever we're doing. They're free. We'll be on there until they say no. You understand that? We will be literally providing whatever we have found free of charge. We're not selling you this information. It's impossible, so that means no solicitation. We're not entertaining you. This is not for entertainment purposes only. This is to take this very serious. Your life is at stake. There is very bad coming. And the majority of people are going to find out that their absolutely claim on every piece of property they've ever claimed has been bought with debt money. And the debt is into the trillions. So the more debt or the more money you think you have, the further you are in debt. So it doesn't matter whether they're the celebrities with 30 or 40 or 50 or $100 million estates, they have more debt. The guy who's got nothing lost nothing. He's closer to par. Private is not public. The public is penniless. It's got nothing. The privates are backing it up because they're in interest. And I'm not interested in interest. I'm interested only in rest. So I just rather be at rest. So I just found that if I'm stillborn, I'm at rest. Enter into God's rest day. He's already at rest. He's wondering why you're occupied. So I just tell people I'm already preoccupied.
When would we get the video then?
Well, there's, I hope you can upload this. This is a heavy-duty file, okay, because I think we've been kind of somewhat granted a little bit more space on the, and Mark is, or Mladen's got about probably 4 hours of small individual ones he's got to upload on top of this. I have no problem with what we have on here being uploaded. Remember, if you're bearing arms, guys, a name, a surname is arms. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. That's arms. So a Christian cannot bear arms because he's supposed to be free from the character of war. So a given name could not occur with a surname because that would imply I'm armed. That's a weapon. And then I'd be Cain, not Abel. And you need the Sethoff. Scripture told you the code. See, par, door, estate. That's code. isn't this a lot more peaceful? I mean, sometimes you have to purge the other out, because I'm telling you, there are going to be no solutions. There's guys trying to play the commercial lien aspect, all that stuff. I'm telling you, you're playing with fire. And I know what happens when you play with fire, you can get burned. There's no possible way you can fix the crap that's out there. It's too far. It's gone too far. We do need a miracle. Now, constitutional exemption is a word you need to look at. I'm going to read you the definition of that. Because I know we're getting a little stir crazy here now. It's been a long session. But constitutional exemption, very, very important. I can't change what was already deemed to be, but I was redeemed by Christ. I could be deemed by man to be that name they put over my head, but it doesn't mean I have to participate in it, because that's a conscientious objector to war in any form, and democracy is a form of government, which is a form of war of privates who think they're going to overturn a stratocracy, and it won't work. And they've got military bats, guns, and weapons, and they're preparing for it. I've seen military entourages of shipments of military stuff on the railway tracks going north for 25 minutes. Pass me by, brand new equipment, all ready to go. It doesn't make any sense. Bobcats, bulldozers, you name it. All done in Canada. I don't think people understand what's really happening. Wake up the masses that find out they don't have anything and see what your neighbor's going to be like. Pull the plug on the hydro system. The grid. What's the first people want that have money? They want power. When they pull that power grid, what do you think is going to happen? All they have to do is pull the power.
Yep. You've done that.
You tell me what would happen. You tell me anyone in this room right now, under their current circumstances, would not be at the mercy of what's out there if they pulled the power grid.
I watched it happen the last time. Yeah, people ran around like fools. Yeah.
We had stores selling water for $25 for 12 bottles of water in Bolton, Ontario. In North Bay, the shelves were empty in 3 hours. All canned goods were gone. What do you think the Y2000 scare was about? Just to find out who was awake. It was a test. That's it, exactly. It's a contest. So constitutional exemption, very important word. There is a remedy. Exempt means even though the law may apply to others, there is still exemption for certain individuals. And an individual cannot have something in common with someone else, just so you know that. Because that's an oxymoron, to be individual and be common. Common is an aggregate. I can't be, if I'm, say I was playing the last name Smith. I can't be John Smith, individual. That's impossible. Oh, even if I put a 9-digit number beside it and apply for it under social insurance, that is ridiculous. Because that is completely opposite, because common means an aggregate. What is in common? That means shared. Individual can only occur in an inalienable position under the given name, because that's a given, that's a gift. And you can't give a gift that's bestowed to one party, or one person, or one individual, and then really give it to someone else, and they'd have nothing, right? Wouldn't that be ridiculous? That'd be unjust enrichment. No one could talk. Then Dale wouldn't be Dale, Mladen wouldn't be Mladen, and I wouldn't be Daniel. Then we're just, might as well just be robots at that point. You still have consent, because you were a present, which is a gift, a present. And there's only one who has the intellectual property to that given name, which is Christ, because he's the spirit of the invention. So even though they like to put a last name as a false surety from a secular side, added to the name, the bottom line is, you couldn't have a name without the given name, correct? So wouldn't he be the spirit of the invention under intellectual property rights? And the birth record seal from the Great Seal Office only deals with AD on that one record. It's the only probably office I've ever seen that puts AD on it, which means in the year of our Lord and Savior. I didn't write that. That's their record, which means only referring to Jesus Christ. No man, no historical, if we want to call him character, ever had something labeled that means. So they are recognizing his authority because they crossed the line. And they have the blood upon them. So it is to our benefit the Romans killed him because they have blood responsibility. And it's a historical event, and they only register events. I know I got two things I got to read. I got to read constitutional exemption. I got to read the word miracle to you. Because miracle is an act of God. And an act of God clause discharges any contracting parties. So you aren't contracted with them. You have an exemption not to be involved. I know this may be a big windstorm revelation, but I'm trying to give it to you as quickly as possible right now because we only got minutes left. And I need minutes left in the real time. Constitutional exemption. A device which enables the court to uphold law that is valid in most of its applications. The court does this by creating an exemption, declaring the law unconstitutional and unlawful in their application to specific individuals or groups. So it doesn't mean that this constitutor means debtor. They had to have a debtor because there has to be two sides. There are people that do not want to do the right thing, and there are people that are going to want to continue to do the other side. You can't make everybody be a good guy. But you can provide an exemption for people who don't want to be involved. And that would make sense, wouldn't it? That's consent. If there's no consent in what we're talking about, then there's no point in us meeting here right now. Because you might as well put your head between your legs and kiss your ass goodbye. And I'm telling you that as truthfully as possible. Because if this wasn't there, I wouldn't be here. Because I would probably be barricading myself in some hole in a cave right now, hiding. But I know I can't run. There's nowhere you're going to run. They got the whole planet satellite graphed. They want to find you, they're going to find you. They want you, they want you. I want to be needed, not wanted. So the other wording, miracle, and we found this American Dictionary of English Language. One of our friends here also has one of these. It's, be careful. This guy probably is a Mason. Noah Webster. I would have been okay if he was just Noah, but he couldn't do business without Webster. Okay, just so you understand, commerce has to happen with the surname. So, though there's a lot of good in here, there's a lot of things I found he missed deliberately. But there's still a lot of good things in here. So, under miracle, now, wouldn't you say life is a miracle? So wouldn't there be a miraculous birth event of God occurring on everybody's birth? So they didn't register a secular, they registered a miracle, because life is a miracle. And it's a miracle, I never saw this earlier. Miracle. It says, marvel. Didn't Pontius Pilate marvel at what Jesus did when he was in front of him? It said he marveled. Because it was a miracle, what he was hearing from him. It says, literally, a wonder or wonderful thing, but appropriately in theology, an event. The Register General only registers events? How many people don't know what that meant? They register miracles. In theology, an event or effect contrary to the established constitution and course of things, or a deviation from the known laws of nature, a natural event. Did you understand how these are all linking now? So, if you didn't read this, and you don't have this, at least you got it on video that'll come. And we'll do our utmost to get it uploaded. And I can guarantee you that we have a lot of empathy right now for a lot of things going out there, so we're not here to judge anybody. But I can tell you that we have a lot of enemies right now from that movement that met somewhere else today. Okay? Because those guys don't know the law.
Well, the problem as well, Dan, is they're gonna create a lot of problems.
You got it. And you see...
And I'm a witness to one, and actually I was looking at...
Yeah, go ahead, tell them
We had a free man that was a little wacky, and they're always looking for help. And by the way, I'm a bailiff. Don't be afraid. I'm on the opposite side of the fence because the ministry's been trying to get rid of me for years. And with Raphael's help here, we've kind of, quelled them a bit. Anyways, the police arrested me, and I was telling them they were making a grave error. 5 of them took me away. Yeah, they called me everything under the book. They tried to say I was a freeman. They tried all kinds of things. But eventually, because of some paperwork we did in advance with the ministry, they brought me in. The guy he had an old pair of gloves on. I could smell feces, believe it or not. And he was, he was checking. Anyways, and it was a terrible thing to have happen. I was kidnapped by these thugs for 3 hours, and they tried to say that I was a bailiff. I said, well, I'm not a bailiff. I'm here in my private capacity. I'm not. Well, yeah. Well, if you're a bailiff, where's your this? Where's your that? I said, well, I don't have a uniform on. And then, where's your ID? Well, I don't have any ID for a bailiff, and I don't, because they're trying to get rid of this type of bailiff through the government. I'm an appointed bailiff, and they want to license them all now. So my appointment is a little different than a license. I don't have an ID. It's all word of mouth. Anyway, they wouldn't even accept a business card or a letter. So they said, oh, well, you're pretending to be a peace officer. I never said that. So this is the guys that they arrested me on. And actually, because this guy was a kind of a whacked up freeman, they wanted to actually check my vehicle for weapons. And I said, well, no, you can't check my vehicle. I don't have anything in here that you might want to see. What I do have in there, it's under my fiduciary responsibility, it's my eyes only. So you can't even look at the paperwork. And you want to arrest me? Get a, you want to search my car, get a search warrant. You can get somebody right on the phone right now and ask them for a search warrant. They said, no, we're going to arrest you for being a peace officer. And you're not. I said, oh, well, I said, you're making a grave error. So down to the police station we went. Long story short, well, the detective that was in charge of everything, and I got no one's name other than the detectives. Not one of the policemen there or uniformed persons there would identify themselves. That's great. When we got down to the holding area and he put on his dirty gloves and, checked me and everything else, the detective came down and he said, hold on a second. Don't put Mr. Archambault in that holding cell area. And for God's sakes, give him his shoes back. I'm thinking, what happened? Well, obviously they checked with the ministry. And the paperwork that we put together previously had got a minister, the registrar, fired. So they're saying, hey, you're dealing with fire here. You got Mr. A, give him his shoes back. Don't touch him, don't do anything. Anyways, they released me after 3 hours. But it was all due to the fact that I posted a notice for a freeman. And that's what created the issue. So you got to stay away from these guys, And I was pre-protected, so thank the Almighty for that. But, well, that's the story. It was,
so be cautious.
But you know what I'm talking about there. It's,
because the group,
yeah.
they don't even, I don't even know if they have partial knowledge. I don't understand, like when I did videos earlier, I would say that the reason I'm not concerned saying what I am, or what I do, or what I'm saying is because, for one thing, it's purely gratuitous. It's charitable. It's free of charge. I'm not going to sell it. I'd be amazed. There's probably going to be someone that they're taking tidbits out, and we were already told that. There's people taking little bits out here and there, and they're selling it. That's up to them. I didn't authorize them to do that, because I believe the knowledge comes from God anyway. So it's what it is. From research, it's all there. So it's up to them. If their conscience says they want to do that, it's fine. But they're misrepresenting those terms. Those terms don't mean what they're saying. And those guys who are claiming they're free men are as loaded into the matrix of debt and nonsense and ID, even though they're claiming they're not. They're probably carrying OHIP cards, they're carrying social insurance, they're just not maybe carrying it on their person. But they're carrying it somewhere else. They haven't gone, they're not free. Okay? And technically, two sides of this matrix are going on. There's those that are under the bond, and those that are free. And the free, that are going down the peaceful direction, were purchased, and so therefore they're still the intellectual property of someone else. You have to believe it, you have to own it. Belief, leaf means love. But if you believe in the other side, that's the money. And that side has no protection. That's the guys playing the opposite side to all this. And there will never be any protection, technically, in storing up treasures on earth. Ever. That's alienable. That's alienable. And the world has leaned that idea through the use of that surname. It's a false surety of Satan, evil. It's in his name. There's two things, last thing we're going to say here, and we'll do another course. Oh, someone wrote something here. Okay, hopefully you get that off there. I'll try and take it off. How's that for the camera? I'm sure that's been already seen. Okay, I'm going to tell you what devil means. And the lawyers work on your behalf. They're devil's advocates. Okay? There's not a lawyer I've met that'll ever not admit this. And the devil's in law relates back to the barristers or the lawyers who protect, as a group, Elizabeth I in its history. I'm a little concerned, but I'm not going to go point fingers of anything. I'm just saying what I've found. I'm not going to fight against them. I'm not worried about doing that. I know who wins the war that's going to come. I'm supposed to be peaceful right now. I'm supposed to be a peacemaker according to Matthew 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. Not the warmongers. Don't have a war rant. Because if you took that share warrant, which belongs to the stratocracy, with their signing authority on it to vouch for it, and you took it up the next ladder to create sin, they now have a warrant to enter every address because you've impostered that. You are imposturing the civilly dead. Because Christians are civilly dead. So you're trying to make something live, and only God can make it live, so don't try to make something civilly dead live. Because Christians can't be civil, because civil is armed. It's the militia. The military is the one above that, and the one at the bottom is ecclesiastical, which are people that are religious, who would not bear arms, who are charitable. That's the three classes in society. Which class would you rather be in? Devil, door. That's E, which is estate, which is property. Do you know that your proper name is your Christian name, so there you know where the property is? Surname is just an add-on. It's an annex thing to it. Annexed. V is vow. These are hieroglyphics, guys. That's a long course on this. That's I, which is first person. Then you got God, which is L. So devil is door, property, vow, I, first person, God. Oh, doesn't that sound friendly? Did you get the feel out of that one? Whatever property vow I, first person God. That's a lie. That's why he's the father of the lie. Only Christ could be the surety according to Scripture, Hebrews 11:22. 7:22? It's 7:22. For Christ was made surety of a better covenant. The first covenant was good, he wouldn't have to amend the will. So he made you at one, not two. Right? He atoned for your sins at one. You think I'm messing around with these words? At one? Atone? You couldn't make this up if you tried. I couldn't even. I have no imagination. It's already there. Because imagination's treason, by the way. So when you imagined you could take over as the prodigal, then you went into sin. And you're the only one who can back up that story. That's why they take your picture and they make you sign. They couldn't find anybody else to do the pirating. Became a pirate. Now, if I take that and reverse that, what's the reverse of this? Read it up the other way.
Lived.
Well, didn't the devil once live with God, according to the account? Now let's read it this way now. So we take live. Isn't it funny that your liver is the seat of motivation? Isn't that someone who lives, a liver?
Okay.
And if your liver's no good, you're done.
Your history.
Your history. Talk to the man there, he'll tell you. You can't live without a liver.
If you eat to protect your liver, you can't get sick.
God, didn't he de-liver us? So we got God, I first person.
And you know, Dan, the strange thing about this is in native culture, everywhere on the earth, the first thing that was eaten out of an animal kill is the liver.
Right.
Because it's the greatest source of rebuilding the actual physical body.
God, first person, vow, property, door. Isn't that a little different? You're giving it all to God. Wasn't that what people did that were religious? They said everything belongs to God. And you see, you can't be blessed without being less. Don't be more. Because wouldn't that be blessed? Be less? Well, isn't that be God, a state? And you see there's two S's there, it's like half of an 8. It takes both of them to make an 8, right? Which is infinity. Which is a continuous sequence. Like I said, no, this is beyond. The guy just saying, this is beyond. It'll never end, guys. You don't want to be in my head. Some nights I just go outside and just breathe the air. It's almost like an anxiety attack from having too much of that go in and the bad spilling out of my colony. Okay? So we have to understand, you've got to go through, you don't need to know all this. This would be great. I could put all that down. It'd be great. You could look at things much differently. But isn't it just simple that if I was talking to a homeless guy on the street and I said, don't worry, see the certificates that are given for you? It's a given. They vouch for you. Don't you vouch for it. Because you can't vouch for yourself. God knew who you were before the foundation of the world. That's only the foundation identity document. Your parents put down that given name beforehand, in reality, because they had to have known that name before they put it down on paper, right? Wouldn't that be beforehand? Mm-hmm. So that's a given, and that's a fact. The surname, you can research it as much as you want. It leads to very bad things. Criminals, pirates, prostitution, everything you could possibly think of is under that name. So I hope that this has helped you as kind of like a beginning on this. We'll load up as much as we can, you know, up the YouTube virus mainframe, because good will always eradicate evil. But if you have to pay for your solution, you don't have a solution. It's already paid for. It's already paid for. It's done. Don't try to do something that's not, it's already done. It's done. God's resting. Other people don't get it. It's there. Let the paper work, right? Are you working for the paper, or are you letting the paper work? What a crazy scene. We think we have to work for the paper. You got to get these things through your mind, into your heart. The right things will come out of your mouth. Then you won't owe and sound. All right, guys, that's it. I'm not going to give you any more.